Now, a senior aide of former Human Settlements Minister Sisulu claimed more than 1.7 million rand on travel and accommodation since May 2019. This was revealed in a written reply to a parliamentary questions by the Democratic Alliance spokesperson Emma Louise Powell. Powell said in a statement that claims by Mthunzi Mtekazi were in addition to her already hyper-inflated monthly salary. For more on this, we're joined by the Democratic Alliance's spokesperson, Emma Louise Powell. Emma, thank you so much for making time. How much was this advisor paid, just monthly?
Hi, Clement. Thanks for having me. So, according to the documents that I have, which include the contract of Mr. Mtekazi and the other members of this specific Water Services Committee, their salary was set at 142,920 Rand per month. And this was in terms of the remuneration grade set by the public service in their regulations, an S grade, and in exchange for only 15 days of work per month.
That's just for working 15 days a month. What was his responsibility?
Well, the task team is established in terms of, well, this advisory committee rather is established in terms of Section 76(1) of the Water Services Act. Now, that piece of legislation gives Minister Sisulu and now her successor, Mr. Mchuno, the sole discretion to appoint an advisory committee. And what this Section 76 says is to advise in terms of the full ambit of this specific piece of legislation. So essentially, his job would have been to advise the minister in relation to water and sanitation services in specific regard to the ambit of the Act.
Wow. What was his relationship with the minister? Because I saw in your statement indicating that this may be in relation to the minister's presidential ambitions.
Well, you know, this is all conjecture and rumor at this point, but it seems to be quite a consistent rumor that seems to be backed up by quite a lot of sort of, if you can imagine the minister's groundwork where she's been focusing the majority of her attention in certain parts of the Eastern Cape, her recent visits to Nkandla ahead of the former President Zuma's arrest, and her, you know, greeting of the RET soldiers and or the MKMBA soldiers and thanking them for what they were doing ahead of the looting. And we know that Mr. Mtekazi has frequently accompanied Minister Sisulu on a number of these oversight visits in terms of both her work as a minister and as a member of the ANC's National Executive Committee. But Clement, I think what really has been the greatest concern, the DA raised the flag about this over 2 years ago when these appointments were first made, because one would expect that water services advisors would be generally engineers or international water experts. But if one looks just to this particular advisory committee, and we know that the previous minister had established a number of these so-called advisory committees, notwithstanding, of course, her 2 national rapid response task teams, which were enough of an issue in and of themselves. But we had, for example, on this so-called water services advisory committee, we had a Kenyan documentary filmmaker who's rumored to have been a previous departmental cameraman. We had a gentleman who was previously one of the public relations officers for a national soccer team, who was also a radio DJ. Now, the conjecture in terms of these gentlemen having served or been appointed to serve the minister's potential political and presidential ambitions ahead of the ANC's 2022 elective conference really are brought into stark focus when one sees that this Water Services Advisory Committee resembles more of a public relations advisory committee. Yeah. And Clement, you may know that we've put out further statements today in terms of the travel costs that were incurred by the members of the NRRTT, which we now know today were for the same period over 3.7 million Rand. Again, a bunch of individuals with strong political connections hired to do departmental work, but we're traveling across the country under the auspices of being a ministerial task team of sorts, and again claiming 3.7 million rand for things like laundry services, travel and hotels.
Yeah, that's a lot of money that government doesn't have. And just to be fair, Emma, on the visit to Nkandla, the minister, Lindiwe Sisulu, was deployed by the African National Congress as part of the other ministers and didn't go there to visit. I want you to tell me about the other people, as you've indicated, who are on this committee. Will you be requesting more information on the invoices that they submitted? Because if this is what you picked up with this particular member, who knows what the other committee members have claimed for and how much?
Absolutely, Clement. So we submit, as members of parliament, we submit up to 3 parliamentary questions a week. And this is quite an outstanding question. It's a question that Minister Sisulu didn't respond to during her term as minister of this department. And it's been very heartening for me to see that since the new minister for the Department of Water and Sanitation and Human Settlements, since they've come in, these question responses are starting to flow, and we're starting to get the information that we've been asking for now for months. So we know that on the side of the National Rapid Response Task Team, again, another one of these so-called task teams established by the minister. There was 2. There was one for housing and one for water. We know that just on the Water Services Committee that the costs are sitting at 3.7 million rand. The likes of individuals such as Shumani Maxwali, who you will remember led the Roads Must Fall movements. He in this period claimed over 330,000 rand for his domestic air travel and car hire and hotels. We have the likes of Zolile Burns Ngamashi, who is now an ANC member of parliament, previously one of the individuals who served on the House of Traditional Leaders. He claimed over 300,000 rand. So that's on one of the task teams. On this specific advisory committee, on which Mr. Mdakazi is the deputy chairperson, we know that the chairperson of that organization or that entity initially was hired to be Gugile Nkwinti, who, as you will know, was one of the ex-ministers who was found by the public protector to have violated the ethics code and the constitution in 2018 in relation to the purchase of a 97 million rand land parcel that was then allegedly given to a Luthuli House staffer. We have the likes of certain other individuals whose names I will not mention at this point in time because I don't want to put them squarely in the public domain. But yes, to answer your question, we have already submitted questions asking for each of these individuals' travel costs. I have written to both ministers now requesting that they initiate investigations into exactly what these invoices were for. Clement, you will recall that for much of last year, domestic travel was banned. Was interprovincial travel was banned or certainly limited. International travel was for a lot of the year banned. So we had a lot of airlines grounded. It's not clear how these individuals were able to rack up such huge travel bills. I mean, I'm not sure
it's a lot of money.
Charging private jets.
It's a lot of money, Emma. I'm just thinking, and thank you for submitting these questions because we wouldn't really have this kind of information. And thanks for making time. 1.7 million rand on travel and accommodation. And this is a person who's being paid about 142,000 rand a month for working just 15 days. Must be nice. That's Emma Louise Powell, who is with the Democratic Alliance.